This is Fish Out of Water from Tears for Fears, which is ironic considering what I'm going to be talking about here in a second. Tears for Fears was a huge 1980s band. Everybody Wants to Rule the World. It's probably the most famous song. And but they've done, the other ones I can't think of the top of my head right now. But they've had a whole list of huge hits during the 80s. And then there was a disagreement, argument, or whatever between, because it was two guys. They had a disagreement about, I guess, where the band was going, whatever, and they broke up in the 80s. Flash forward about 93, which is, I guess, when this came out, because I remember playing it when I was out of college during the summer working at Diamond Comic Distributors warehouse that we used to have in Baltimore. And it was a great album called Elemental. And there's only one member of Tears for Fears, and the song I just played, Fish Out of Water, which is from Elemental, is basically a diss song to the guy that used to be his partner. And actually, I may as well, since I've set this all up, I may as well talk about this. The reason I bring this up is because Tears for Fears has reunited as a duo again, and they released their new album, their first one in almost 17 years. Well, 17 years ago is when the last one that this guy did by himself, but they've reunited for a new album. I haven't heard the new song from it yet, so I might check that out to see if it's as big of a difference. But Elemental is absolutely one of the quintessential, fantastic, great, in my opinion, one of the greatest albums of the 1990s. And I think it's hugely underrated. I don't think a lot of people know about it, and I wish they would. But so there's that. Hi, this is Dylan here from Dylan Knows. Now, problem is, here we go again. Last week is when this episode was supposed to happen. It was supposed to cover October 3rd through the 9th. Now, what happened on that was that Saturday night, my wife was going to a party of one of our Snark Alk friends, and so she was going to be out. And then my son went to a friend's house to spend the night as well. Now that was where the sort of threw the kink into the works here, because I thought my son was going to be at home with me, him, and my daughter, and I could get them to bed at the usual time. Then after they're in bed, I could come down here and I could do my show. But since my son was at his friend's house, my daughter wanted to watch a movie, which I always love to do. I love watching movies with my daughter, get her into movies that I absolutely love because I know she likes them as well. And so we watched the movie The Peacemaker, George Clooney, Nicole Kidman. I've been trying to get her to watch that for a long time now, and I finally got her to do it, and she enjoyed it. And then I hadn't seen it for a while. That's another really good underrated movie from the 90s as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about the 90s, because there's actually a 1990s discussion here going on right now in today's episode. First, let me show my new shirt. Let's see. Get in, loser. There we go. So this is the stuff that happened from October 3rd through the 9th. Now, I'm going to do this now at 6:18 p.m. on a Saturday, October, what is today, 16th? Yeah. Saturday, October 16th, I'm doing stuff from the week of October 3rd to the 9th. Now, the stuff for October 10th through the 16th will be later tonight. Hopefully, I'm hoping to get that, because everybody's home. Everybody's going to be home. My wife had to go into work today, so she's tired, and my kids are tired. We just spent a few hours with my dad and stepmom, had dinner with them, stuff like that. So hopefully they'll be and it's Saturday. It's kind of dreary rain. The cold front's coming through. It's been fairly warm here in Reisterstown, Maryland, when it's middle October and temperatures are up in the 80s, which is absolutely ridiculous because they're supposed to be in the 60s. But that's besides the point. Anyway, cold front's coming after this big rainstorm, which we should be getting, or we have been getting, I guess. It's been raining periodically off and on, so maybe this is going to be the end of it, but we're supposed to be getting cooler weather over the next few days. Tomorrow is going to be dropping down to about 66, I think. Is that still on the cards for tomorrow? Let me see here. Yeah, it's there's actually no more rain scheduled to happen here, but tomorrow it's supposed to be 63, actually. Monday 63, Tuesday 70, Wednesday 72, Thursday 73, Friday 70, Saturday 64, Sunday 63, and Monday 64. So we'll have a little bit of a warm up in the middle of the week, but that's how things are going. So it's raining now, so it's kind of a drearish day. So I'm hoping that around 11 o'clock tonight, probably, once the kids are in bed and excuse me, and after had their shower, stuff like that, we should be able to do the actual show for this week, which is going to cover stuff from the 10th to the 16th. Because we got a lot of stuff happening. There's actually a lot more stuff that happened this week than last week. So, but we'll cover the stuff we covered this week because I want to make sure that you all get your information. And, you know, those who are watching, you've probably already seen this, remember this, but this might bring back some memories. So, again, this is stuff that happened October 3rd through the 9th. So, buckle up and get in, loser. We're going to be talking all kinds of cool stuff. I've already talked enough, so I'm not going to tease anything else. So, boom. That's terrible. I thought I liked it, but I don't. The big story of the last week, October 3rd through the 9th, excuse me, Jesus, was on that Sunday, the 2nd, or Saturday, Sunday, Sunday the 2nd, a 60 Minutes story came out about how Facebook was not reporting the insurrectionists and were actually encouraging them for the most part. There's a whistleblower came in and discussed all that, and it doesn't look good for Facebook. And she is going to be talking to a congressional group that could hand down some problems for Facebook. But hey, that happened on the 2nd, so everybody's like, okay, that's weird. So surprisingly, maybe not so surprisingly, depend on some things. We awoke October. It was about 10 o'clock, I guess 11 o'clock on October 3rd, that Monday, and we were told that Facebook is down. The official message was that a cyber attack had hit Facebook, and it was so bad that the people who are supposed to be working on it could not get into their offices due to the electronic mechanisms controlled by the computer that was being hacked. Sure. Theories ranged from it was a hack to someone getting revenge for this story getting out or trying to make sure that nothing gets out, to Facebook did it to themselves and were scrubbing all the incriminating stuff from their servers, which is what I believe actually truly did happen. So the irony of it happening literally the day after they had a whistleblower talk on a big TV magazine like 60 Minutes saying how bad things were. We have a shutdown. So was going to call today's episode Return of the MySpace, because a lot of people actually said, hey, let's try MySpace. And people remember their MySpace passwords. And they said MySpace was still up and running. So I wish I remember what my MySpace password was, but apparently it's still up and running. So I didn't know if that was the case or not. So we'll see. So that was kind of a interesting day. It cleared up a little bit a few hours later, like closer to like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, I guess. And yeah, so it was only down for about 4 or 5 hours. Still very sus in my opinion. That's just me. Then that October 4th was my 18th wedding anniversary. My wife and I got married October 4th, 2003. And low-key anniversary, we went out to dinner, just the two of us, to a place called Libertori's, an Italian restaurant out in Timonia, Maryland, which is about 20 minutes from here. And the interesting thing about that was Libertori's was the place we went to on our first wedding anniversary. So that was kind of an interesting little... and we hadn't been there really since that point. But we were the oldest people there, and we're not that young. Pretty good food, and a little expensive. It's one of those pricey restaurants, but that's still kind of it was a great meal. And then they also you can buy wine by the bottle, and if you don't finish the wine, you get to keep it since you bought it. So that Monday happened, or Tuesday rather, when we went, happened to be a half price wine bottle night. So we bought a wine bottle for half price, which was good. Got to take that home. I think we just about kicked it by now because it's been almost a week and a half now since we had our anniversary. So it was nice, and got some new inflatables for Halloween that I'll put out probably next week. And I was going to do it this weekend, but got up late, and then didn't feel like doing anything in the morning, so I played Fortnite with my son, and then it started to rain, and then we had dinner. with my dad and stepmom today. Um, so that's why I didn't do that. So that should be good. I got some good stuff for her too. Also, that week I used to do something on this show called In Dreams, where I kind of remembered a weird dream that I had, and I would tell you about it. Well, I hadn't had one of those in a while, but I had one that last week. Was weird. I was playing football. I mean, American football, like with the Ravens and Patriots and all that stuff. And I was playing it with a group of people on a cobblestone street in Germany. I know it was Germany because the buildings, I've seen pictures of German streets and they look like an old fashioned German street with German buildings. I am German, so it makes a sense a little bit. But the three things I remember most about it was I was the quarterback. And in order to win the game, or I just wanted to score anyway, I had to get a first down, I think, and I was going to throw it to my wife who was playing on the team. But I threw it short. But my wife is such a great athlete that she did her route, but then she saw that it was going to fall in there. So she doubled back and was able to catch it and got the first down for us. So she saved our hash then. My brother in law and a guy named Mike, who I work with at my work, they, I guess, apparently on my team also. But I remember another part of my dream I remember about that was they were dressed up in wedding dresses. Not sure why, what that has to do with anything, but that was kind of intriguing and interesting to look at. And last thing I remember also was I beat up a drunk guy. It was a drunk guy that was being, mean or drunky, as it were, and I beat the crap out of him. So, interesting dreams, and that's why I called today's episode of Dylan Knows, episode 412, German Street Football. Just, it's also kind of a cool name, too. So I think that's all about all the stuff I got, I think, for personal stuff. If I have more coming up, I'll let you know, but that should be about it for now. Doctor Who is going through a lot of changes. I think last week or a couple weeks ago, I told you that the old Doctor Who showrunner Russell T Davies will be coming back for the new season, and that there will be a new doctor involved with that. The present Doctor, Jodie, is doing her last season now. Everybody was wondering what was going on with that season because it's been a while since it's been almost a year since she's did any Doctor Who stuff. Well, we got a teaser this week, the 3/9, October 3rd through the 9th. Of something called the Flux, which appears to be this last season seems to all be connected into one big storyline called the Flux, which is bringing back like all of the Doctor Who villains that have been around forever and also have been created during this new era of it, taking on the new Doctor. And we get a date. The first episode of the new Doctor Who season is coming out on Halloween, October 31st. That's a Sunday, so that makes sense because Doctor Who tends to fall on those days anyway. So, if you think about it, I think it's a 13 episode season, so that's 13 weeks if it's weekly. That it might be less than that because then that would cover all of November, all of December. So it might be like 10 episodes, maybe. I think it might end around Christmas or New Year's, like it usually does, and then we'll get the new Doctor Who and the new Russell T Davies. Now, I didn't write this down for my stuff for this week, but I'll just mention it since it's connected to this. There has been some rumors, weird pictures of stuff that I'm not quite sure what's going on, that the new season of Doctor Who with the new Doctor and Russell T Davies has already started filming. Because remember, this season of Doctor Who is just coming out on Halloween. They've been filming now for about months now, so they should all be done filming, and she's probably done her last, bit as Doctor Who. Or maybe she isn't. Maybe they're going to do a Christmas episode before. Maybe that's what they're filming or what. I don't know. But they're saying that there appears to be some strange filming that appears to be Doctor Who related in England right now. But it appears they can't tell what it is, and they don't see Jodie or anybody else, Chris Chibnall or whoever else involved with the series over there now. So it could be something else completely different. Or it could be the new season being filmed. Who knows? Eggo Waffles frosted maple syrup is coming to a Pop-Tart near you. It is a new Pop-Tart flavor which actually sounds really outstanding, to be honest. Eggo waffle frosted maple syrup. So it's going to be a waffle flavor with mapley syrup background flavor that's frosted Pop Tart. Um, I don't know what the filling inside would be. I guess maybe that'd be more the syrupy taste and the Eggo flavor and the frosting on top. I don't know how it's going to go, but it sounds intriguing. And if I find it, I will try it. I'll let you guys know. Well, it's October 39th. It's never too early to start talking about Christmas. There is apparently a giant Frosty the Snowman inflatable that when you get it and inflate it, it actually will play the Frosty the Snowman animated show on repeat on the belly of the inflatable. So you can have the Frosty the Snowman cartoon airing 24/7. Don't quite know how that works, but there you go. But that's kind of an interesting sort of take on things. Hottest known exoplanet is melting molecules in their atmosphere. So it's a science thing. So this planet is the hottest known of all the exoplanets that have been discovered, which there have been a lot. There have been millions of them, actually. And so this hottest known one is actually melting molecules in its atmosphere, which is kind of bad, actually, honestly. So hopefully that won't happen, anytime. So I think this was October 9th when I wrote this down. On October 9th, I think Providence, Rhode Island was founded on this day in 1635. Providence, Rhode Island is actually a absolutely gorgeous city. My stepbrother and his wife got married there because they live up in that area. And we had a wonderful time. My wife and I we took the train up, and we thought we would get like a cab to the hotel, but we could see the hotel from the train station, and it looked like it was just a quick little walk. So it was only like a 10-minute walk to the hotel from the train station. And Providence is nowhere like Baltimore. It was nicer. It was a city, but it seemed smaller than Baltimore, and it didn't have quite as many busy roads, and had a lot more park space and real estate and stuff like that. So it was neat. And the hotel we were staying at is like an iconic one in Rhode Island, and it's the biggest one in the area. You can't miss it from anywhere. So we actually saw and just walked to it, and it was gorgeous. We went to the wedding. We showed up early the day before the wedding, and once we checked in, we decided to take a walk around the area, see if we could find the place where the rehearsal dinner was going to be at. So we found the place where the rehearsal dinner was, which is within walking distance of our hotel, where everybody was staying at, included my sister and brother-in-law and my nephews, and my dad and my stepmom were staying there also, and my other family members who were there they were all staying there too. So we were all together in that one area. So we walked to the rehearsal dinner from the hotel. Again, it was a little bit of a 10-15 minute hike, but still it wasn't too bad, and it was nice. And then the day, I'm trying to remember, was it before the wedding? Yeah, because we went back on Sunday. So it must have been the day of the wedding. The wedding was until like 3 o'clock or something like that. And we just had to be outside the hotel at a certain point, dressed up and ready to go. And the buses would take us where we needed to go. And we ended up taking a walk around Providence, my wife and I, and it was a really nice walk. It was a really nice city. I'm glad it was created. Now, speaking of my stepbrother and his wife, they are due to have a baby any day now. She's due around this week, but they think that it might be a couple of weeks late. So we'll see what happens. So we're going to keep our ears. That's one of the things to talk to my stepmom about. That's her son, and talked to her about it a little bit today, and we had dinner with her, and so she's like, yeah, still waiting, but there's been no change, so it doesn't look like it's imminent. But of course, these things can happen like that. So So Providence is a nice place. If you ever get a chance, I would recommend truly to go to Providence, Rhode Island. And this also keys into something I'll talk about later today in my next episode. There was a listing of most livable cities in the United States, and Providence. There's the 50 of them, and Rhode Island's in the top 20, I think, top 25 maybe. It's a little bit higher than I thought it would be. Maybe it would be in the top 50. Actually, was the top. They showed the top 100 actually, but the top 50, I think Providence is somewhere in there. But I thought it was higher up. It was like in the 40s. But I still think it was. It's still a really nice city, and I enjoyed my stay there immensely. Uh, that Saturday, the 9th, was Duskull Community Day for the Pokemon Go people. And what's interesting about that is because we're in October, which is, Halloween and stuff like that. And Pokemon Go's first ever event 5 years ago was the Halloween event. So it's always a big deal when the Halloween event comes around. Now, the Halloween event has started yesterday, or I'm sorry, started on the 15th. Yeah, it was yesterday. Started on Friday and goes through November 1st. So we've got like 2 full weeks of it, which is great because it's the best event they do. And during those 5 years, they never had a ghost type community day during October. They finally, during those 4 years, this 5th year, they finally did it with Duskull, which is one of the ghost type ones. So they had a Duskull community day. Now, unfortunately, that was last Saturday when things just sort of bleh. My wife had a lot going on, so she really wasn't in the mood to go out and walk around and do the hunting. And to be honest, I wasn't really either. So we just did it from our couch and we got a bunch of shinies and we got what we wanted to do. And we did it a couple hours. So that was good. But it was fun to see that. And hopefully we'll see more of that. But yes, the Halloween event is underway presently as of yesterday. I think it's too early. Maybe it isn't. Let's see if the nightfall, because the one cool thing about it is Lavender Town theme, which is the haunted theme from the Pokemon games. Oops. Plays during the night scapes here, but I don't think night's going to hit till 7. Yeah, it's still dusk. Oh, nope. There it is. That's the thing you hear at night, so that's great. Also discovered a bunch of new Pokestops in our area, which was unexpected. So we'll have to check that out eventually. So that's good. So that's what's going on with that right now. Kurt Busiak is one of my favorite comic book writers. He had a good run on the Avengers, but his most famous thing for me, he had a good run on Untold Tales of Spider-Man, which were stories that he had take place during the first couple years of Spider-Man's existence in between the Steve Ditko, Stan Lee stories. And they were good too. But the biggest thing I remember Kurt Busiek for is that his creation of Astro City. Now, he also wrote Marvels, and that one was like about regular people who are how they're affected by the Marvel universe. And that's it was a good story. So he decided to take that and turn it into his own independent series that he owns, creator-owned series, which he does with Brent Anderson and Alex Ross are all part of this. And he basically created a whole entire community called Astro City, and his stories focus on the people who live in Astro City and the heroes around them and how the events of the heroes' lives affect the regular people, which is always an interesting take on the comic book world because you're always seeing it from the point of view of the heroes. Now, he has done a few episodes which are from the point of view of the heroes, and in some cases, the individual people that they're following working with the heroes. Like there was a 1-2-parter that focused on a woman who was in the call center for like their version of the Fantastic Four, but because there are so many people need help, a lot of people would be calling this group of the Fantastic Four, I forget what they're called, and they couldn't go to all of them, so they hired a bunch of call screeners and like customer service reps and stuff like that to weed out the important ones that might be bad, or the ones that were fake, or if there are people who are asking for, hey, can you give me the Invisible Woman's phone number or whatever, to weed them out. And so one of the stories focused on one of the workers at that place. So the Fantastic Four-esque characters were characters in the story, but they weren't the main focus of it. So that type of thing. So, and it started, I think it started at Image, and then it went to DC, and now it's back at Image again because Kurt Busiek just signed a deal with Image where he's going to bring back new issues of Astro City, new stories of Astro City, as well as his other creator-owned stuff, Aerosmith, Autumn Life. He also created some new stories called The Gods on Sunday Morning, which is a just a graphic novel, one and done sort of story, and Free Agents, which he's co-writing with Mark Waid, which is Mark Waid and Kurt Busiek together writing a book, writing a series is outstanding. So I can't wait to see what that's about. So he announced that the week of the 3rd and the 9th. So I'm looking forward to that. That stuff will probably all be rolling through within the next few months, probably closer to 2023, probably, because we're starting to see more of the 2023 stuff that's rolling through here now about what's coming up. So that's good on that. Excuse me. They have baby Bigfoot plushes you can get now. If you like Bigfoot and want to have a stuffed Bigfoot, you can get baby Bigfoot plushes now. This actress, singer is not a big deal here in America, but she's a big deal over in Britain. So this was a big BBC story. Kylie Minogue confirmed she is returning back to Australia after 30 years in the UK. So she's heading back. She's originally was Australian. Then she figured to make her fame as a singer / actress, she would go to the UK, which is bigger than Australia, I guess. Didn't want to go to America, obviously, for obvious reasons. But when to go to the UK, became a huge celebrity in the UK. Was in one of the I talked about Doctor Who. She's in one of Doctor Who's Christmas specials, and had extraordinary chemistry with David Tennant, who was the Doctor at the time. And people were hoping that maybe she would have been the new associate or assistant or whatever he calls them. But alas, it was not to be. What? Scientists find that the class clowns are the smartest people in class. I'm not sure I 100% agree with that. Some of the class clowns that I've seen before are complete utter morons. But I can also see it also. Being funny is not something you can do easily, and is not just, doing goofy stuff, whatever. You have to be cerebral in a lot of cases, and have the talent as well. So I guess I can see that maybe, but in my experience, I don't believe it, but that's just my experience. Stray signal. Okay, a strange signal was detected on a hot Jupiter planet that rains iron. So a planet that rains iron from the sky was sending out a strong signal, radio signal. So scientists, again, are not saying that it's UFO related or alien invaded, but radio wave, they don't understand how that signal could have come from such a place. I haven't watched this show on Netflix, the remake of Lost in Space. I've heard it's pretty good, and I heard it lasted a couple of seasons, and I thought it was canceled, but apparently I was wrong. The final season trailer debuted the week of the October 3rd to the 9th, with a date of December 1st of the arrival of. They're going to drop every episode of that, so it's the last season. They also said it's the final season for the show. So if you're a fan of the show, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, but it's almost there. Hotel Transylvania 4, which is one that wasn't going to include Adam Sandler, but all the other actors were going to be involved with it. But Adam Sandler decided he didn't want to do another voiceover for the animated series that he helped create. So he left, and they got someone else to do the voice. It was supposed to come out in movie theaters, I think, that week, the 3rd through the 9th. And when it didn't, people started scratching their heads, and then they found out that the reason why is because they decided that it was just going to go directly to Amazon. So it will be released. Actually, it's weird. It's not going to be released until January. on Amazon. So whatever. I don't know why. Maybe it wasn't done, or maybe they had to redub some stuff. I don't know, but you're going to wait till January now for a Hotel Transylvania 4, which would be more appropriate to come out in October, but that's besides the point. I don't know how true this is, but last week I think I told you, or 2 weeks ago I told you, that Brendan Fraser and Tom Welling were going to be in a show together called Professionals. A TV show is going to air, I think, on the CW. And I thought, okay, they signed the deals and stuff like that, and we'll see some stuff about that, probably in time for next season, next fall or whatever. And then I just happened to be going through my stuff the week of October 3rd through the 9th, and discovered a trailer for the Professionals. I was like, really? So I clicked on it, and it's not one of these fan made ones or whatever, because, the fan made ones, you can tell are fan made because they use clips from other shows and movies that the characters had did, but make changes to it so it doesn't look like, in the Superman movies, you're not, if the actor let's see, in this case Tom Welling was in Smallville, there's, a lot of him, in Kansas and stuff like that, and he's a lot younger looking, and he's older now. So if you put him in, and then Brendan Fraser stuff, if you've had him stuff with the Mummy and other things as well, and you sort of mix them together, it's like, here's Professionals. No, this actually looked like they were the right age to what they are now. And it looks like it's already been filmed, and maybe that was released somewhere else, but was not released in America until the CW bought the rights to it. But I don't think it's a fake trailer, because it looks too much. It gave you a general idea of what the story is about. For the most part, it's about a rich guy played by Brendan Fraser, who gives money to Tom Welling's, I guess, secret agent group or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what his job is. And Tom Welling decides he wants to meet the guy who's bankrolling their adventure, stuff like that. And it's Brendan Fraser. And Brendan Fraser says, you know what I've always wanted to do? I always want to join you on your stuff. And he's like, that might not be a bad idea because you're not professionally trained. But he's like, well, I'm paying for your stuff. They're like, okay, what can we do? So it has him, sort of a fish out of water. Hey, going back to the song, taking on terrorists and stuff like that. So, it looked kind of funny. So we'll see if it's true or not. We'll see. Cold Stone Creamery is ready for Halloween. They've created the Boo Batter ice cream, and they've also created homemade orange waffle cones, and they have a ice cream flavor. It's like called Candy Crush or whatever, where every single candy you can imagine is mixed in with the ice cream. So you can get all that together for your Cold Stone Creamery Halloween extravaganzas. Now, this was a great show that was on Sci-Fi 10 years ago, celebrating its 10th anniversary, that I have good connections to, as does my wife. There was a show that came out on BBC in England called Being Human, and it followed a ghost, a werewolf, and a vampire who lived together in a house. And they went about their lives, but one's a ghost, one's a werewolf, and one's a ghost. Ghost, a werewolf, and a vampire. And it was a huge hit in the BBC, so of course, or in the UK rather. So of course, the United States says, "Oh, we got to do an Americanized version," i.e., see The Office and tons of other shows. So we did an American version of Being Human and put it on Sci-Fi, and it was the same sort of idea, but it had an American sensibility to it, whatever. And it became one of my wife and I's favorite shows. As a matter of fact, my wife actually wrote reviews of the show for a website that she used to work for, Paranormal Pop Culture, I think, was the website she used to write for, and she would always write the review for Being Human. And it only lasted about 4 or 5 seasons, but it was an outstanding series, and the final episode was amazing. It had its ups and downs, but for the most part, it's a series I have great memories of, and someday wouldn't mind going back and rewatching all the seasons again. But it celebrated its 10th anniversary that week of October 3rd through the 9th. So happy anniversary. Yeehaw. I can't wait till I'm done this. Lamar Jackson, we're going to talk a lot more about next week, or rather I should say by around 11 o'clock tonight. is the Ravens quarterback, and he actually wrote a children's book as well. So that's out. I don't know if it's just out locally or whatever, but he did actually write one. It was printed and it's been in bookstores, stuff like that. So this might be something covering for this week, but I figured since this came down last week, I figure I mentioned it. So this came down like around the 9th, on the 9th, that President Biden has signed an executive order declaring October 11th, which was Monday, this past Monday, as Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day. Now that's something that people have been clamoring for a while. Once more information about Christopher Columbus came out, that he actually should not be the type of person to be elevated into hero status or whatever. He didn't discover America. He actually landed in the West Indies where he enslaved people, and he was so bad that the Spanish wanted him arrested as well, and they sent a crew to come bring him back to spend jail time back in Spain. But he was not a good person. But obviously, somehow down the line, he became this mythical American folklore sort of character, and they create a Columbus Day. And of course, the conservative Republican dumbass asshole losers are, claiming him as their god, and that us changing it out is changing our history and blah blah blah, and it shouldn't change it. And indigenous people blah 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 shouldn't, because they're racist assholes. These conservatives, they don't believe indigenous people should have their own day, blah blah blah. Anyway, it doesn't matter, because Biden is the first president who ever did this, and is now officially Indigenous Peoples Day is now taking the place of Columbus Day. So I applaud him for that. My father-in-law will not like that idea, because he's a member of the Knights of Columbus, and they revere Christopher Columbus for whatever reason. I don't know, but I'm not gonna fight him on that one. So there's that. Okay, a magnetic full reversal of the magnetic poles, a pole shift as they called it, back in like early 2000, I guess, or the 90s, actually did happen 42,000 years ago. New evidence has appeared that showed that the magnetic poles had shifted to where they are now. So that's kind of a new interesting piece of information. Natalie Dyer from Stranger Things, Rachel Keller, and Danny Ramirez are in a queer love triangle film called Chestnut. Don't know much about it, but never heard of a queer love triangle story. I mean, I guess you could say Chasing Amy, sort of similar vibe to it, as does Threesome, but this is a new take on it, so that should be interesting to see. I don't know where I think it's a movie. I don't think it's like going to be on. It's probably not going to go to the movie theaters, but it might be on Apple or Peacock or Netflix or who knows where. The Baltimore Ravens and the Under Armour, who is a local company, have joined up to create a high school girls flag football curriculum or something like that, a sport where high school women could play flag football. Now, for those who don't know what flag football is, it's played exactly like regular football, with the exception of, instead of tackling everybody, you wear a belt that has 4 flags on it, and the flags are on Velcro on these belts. And in order to be down or tackled or whatever, you have to pull the flag off of that. So that's where that comes from. So it's good. My daughter has played some flag football in her high school gym class, and she's actually really good at it. So I thought she'd be interested in that, but she really isn't. So, oh well. The Las Vegas Raiders, we're going to talk more about them in this week's show coming out later tonight or tomorrow, depending on how things go. This is from the week of October 3rd to the 9th. They had a new stadium for their new football team, their Las Vegas Raiders. And the stadium happens to be right next to a highway, which is unusual. The Ravens Stadium is next to 95. So it's understandable. But the difference between that and the Ravens Stadium is that this Las Vegas Stadium actually has a giant screen TV on the outside of their stadium that shows Raiders highlights during the day while people are driving on the highway going 60, 70 miles per hour. Don't tell me that's a bad idea, because it's a bad idea. Having something to watch while you're driving 70 plus miles and not paying attention to traffic in front of you or next to you is dangerous. Now, I can understand if it's a traffic jam and you're not moving or moving very rarely, then that's something fun to do. But just seems like a bad idea to me. Now we're going to get into the next two stories are throwbacks to the 90s. There is going to be an LA Law sequel. That actually might be more the 80s, with Blair Underwood, who is one of the actors in that show. So they're going to be doing a revival, whatever you want to call it. Probably on Peacock. Makes most sense because LA Law was a NBC staple, was part of that torrid Thursday night lineup in the 80s. So I guess it's more 80s than 90s, I guess. So there's that. Y'all remember that 70s show, which was a popular comedy show, had a bunch of famous stars who are famous now, stars in. Oh, they were they were kind of famous, but like the likes of Topher Grace and Mila Kunis, and the dude who was I forget his name, was involved with Demi Moore for a while. Austin. Shit. I forget his name. Regardless, but it was a popular show, and it went for about 5 or 6 years, maybe even 10 seasons. I don't know. It went pretty long, and it did pretty good, and hugely popular. And then they tried to do a spinoff called That 80s Show, which was a disaster. So they just sort of put that stuff to bed. Well, Netflix just announced that they are doing a revival of the 70s show, but they're calling it That 90s Show. And it's not going to focus on Kutcher, Ashton Kutcher. That's who it is, who's married to Mila Kunis now. But it's not going to feature the main cast of That 70s Show because they're all either too big for it or they didn't want to do it or whatever. But it will be focusing on the grown-ups who were the main characters, played by Kurtwood Smith and Deborah Jo Rupp. The premise of That 90s Show is that the two main characters, played by Topher Grace and the redheaded chick, I forget her name right now, they end up together, and I guess they're married now, and they have a teenage daughter now in the 90s. Obviously, if you get married sometime in the 80s, depending on when the series takes place, if it takes place in the mid 90s, it would have had to been, they would have had gotten 80s and gotten pregnant right away, and that would have been like 14 years old, would make it like 94. Depends on when they start airing it. 94, 95 sounds like a good time frame to give them a teenage daughter. She's supposed to be staying with Kurtwood Smith and Deborah Jo Rupp's characters for whatever reason, I don't know, and they're going to explore her life. So it's going to focus on her and her group of friends of the 90s. But Kurtwood Smith and Deborah Jo Rupp, who are going to play her grandparents, are that connection to the 70s show. So that's pretty good. I think it sounds interesting. We'll see if they can do it real good. There is a actual, you hear about the canine corps for the police officers. Well, there's actually a cat police corps also. And there were some pictures of some cats in their uniforms and stuff like that. And that's an actual thing. I don't know if they actually do anything where, I know the Canine Corps does, but there is actual, in a police department, there is a canine, or rather a cat police squad out there. So that's kind of cool. Christopher Nolan is one of the directors everybody loves to see what he's going to do next for his next project, because he's done such wildly crazy stuff. Well, this one sounds like a fairly normal film for once. He's doing a biopic of Oppenheimer, the guy who created the atom bomb, and he's cast Cillian Murphy in the role of Oppenheimer. Now, those who might not know who Cillian Murphy was, he played the Scarecrow in the Dark Knight trilogy, and has also, I would think he was also in the Dream one, in whatever the Dream one was. I can't think of it right there. He was the guy that they had to enter his thoughts to plant uh, the dream stuff into his thoughts. So he's worked with Nolan before, so it's not unusual. So we'll see. That might be more along the lines of, I guess he did a movie called Dunkirk, which is about World War II. So I guess he does those periodically. Um, so we'll see what happens. Um, I'm getting really angry at Mountain Dew because they keep announcing these new flavors that I want to try, but then they're exclusives. I went on a rant a couple weeks ago about how the thrashed apple one is only available at a Kroger's, and we don't have Kroger's around here. So I went online to see if I could order it off Amazon. You can, but a 12 pack is like $26, which is actually, you could probably buy 5 for that much. And then there's an additional 13 plus dollars of tax, a delivery, and tax and delivery, stuff like that. So it's like a $40 for one 12 pack of thrashed apple Mountain Dew, which is ridiculous. Um, then there's the one that's the like the strawberry lemonade flavor, which you can only get at Sam's Club, which is funny, but the only Sam's Club in our area has shut its doors, so we can't do that either. And then you'd have to actually go to their little restaurant area and get it there, because you just can't. It's not on the shelf there. It's just only available through the draft area there. Well, there's add another one to that list. We have dark berry bash, I guess, from Mountain Dew. It's a blue raspberry and blackberry flavor, which sounds absolutely outstanding. But guess what? You can only get it at Applebee's. Applebee's. I don't even think we have an Applebee's in our area. Ugh. So that kind of pissed me off that they do that. They also have one which I might actually be able to get, but of the two or three that I mentioned, the three I mentioned, it's my least favorite flavor combination, but it might be one I wouldn't mind getting. They also announced Uproar, which is only available at Food Lion stores. Now, there's a Food Lion about maybe 10 minutes from here, so that's not too bad. But it is a strawberry kiwi flavored Mountain Dew. The kiwi throws it off for me a little bit because I'm not a big fan of kiwi flavors, and I have had it before. But the fact that you might only be able to get it at a Food Lion, I might just go ahead and buy one because, hey, there's one right up the street up there. Along the same lines, Pepsi is doing the same exact damn thing, where they make these crazy flavored sodas, but you have to do tasks and stuff to get them. Like they did an apple pie flavored one, which I would love to try. They did it last Thanksgiving, and the only way you could get it is if you made a video of your worst cooking disaster, because it was around Thanksgiving when they released it, and upload it to their website or whatever. Then they'd have to pick your thing to send you a 12 pack or a one bottle or something like that. So that was kind of dumb. They have their hot chocolate with marshmallow one. I forget what you had to do with that, but that was a different one. You had to do flavored soda. You had to do something else for that. It was like a Christmas thing. You had to do like your worst Christmas decorating disaster or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what that was. You couldn't get that either unless you did that bullshit. And now they got a new one, which sounds intriguing. Again, all these sound intriguing, but actual flavor, we'll see. The Pepsi cinnamon from a few years ago sounded like it was a good idea, but it wasn't. It was terrible. But the Coke cinnamon flavor was actually better. But they released those out to everybody so everybody could try it. Here, you got to do all this specialized stuff to get it, and it just seems like too much work for me. But Pepsi has a weirdly timed one now, but I guess it's because due to the World Series and stuff like that. But they have a Cracker Jack flavored soda, nutty caramel sort of popcorn flavor, I guess you could say, is how we would best describe Cracker Jack. But you have to sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" or some bullshit like that, and again upload it to their website or some bullshit. I just, as you can see, I'm not very happy about that. So I find it kind of dumb that we have to jump through hoops, where if you just released it in grocery stores or gas station places or Wawa, Wawa's Royal Farm Store, 7-Elevens, whatever, and make it easier and more accessible for people to get. Now, obviously, these places have to order it, but to actually offer, say, hey, why don't you try this and see how well it sells for you? If it doesn't sell well for you, you don't buy anymore. Okay, that's the end of the story. You'll probably be able to sell out of your initial order. Like you can order like 100 cases of it or something like that. Maybe even less. You might want to do 50. Let's do 50 cases of it and put it out and see what happens. So I don't know. We'll be talking more about Mountain Dew and then show coming up later tonight or tomorrow, whenever that is. They have some more information about their ginger flavored one, but we'll talk about that in a second. China's Lunar Rover found some rock samples and have been able to successfully return them to China so they can take a look at them at the labs down in China. They discovered that there was a massive flood on the moon ages ago. Now, obviously, that sort of, to be honest, 2 billion years ago, that sort of jibes with what the theory is of how the moon was created. A lot of people believe the moon was created when a comet or asteroid or whatever crashed into the Earth so bad that it exploded a chunk of the Earth off of it and put it where the moon is now. And the moon became the moon where it is. Now, that would make sense because it was a part of the Earth. And at that time, the Earth was covered in water, as it was before the land masses grew and before water was formed on there first. And a chunk of the Earth with the water in it got popped up there and put into orbit around there eventually. And the atmosphere, stuff like that, it didn't have the qualities to keep it alive. So the water probably evaporated off and disappeared and just left what we find now. So that makes a lot of sense. So that just sort of reinforces the fact that these people believe that how the moon was created, and they actually appeared to have been right about this. I don't know what this one is. I'm just going to put a button by that. Lock and Key was a popular show on Netflix based on the comic book by Stephen King's son, Joe Hill. The second season released a trailer the week of the 3rd through the 9th. So didn't watch it because I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I haven't read the comic, though. I think I probably should. But it does really well like that. Mike Flanagan, on the other hand, is probably Netflix absolutely adores this guy. He's the one who directed Dr. Sleep, which was the Shining sequel. He also created for Netflix the House on Haunted Hill TV series, which was hugely popular. Then there was like The Haunting of Bly Castle or something like that, which is another TV show that became hugely popular. He was worked on that as well. He directed Gerald's Game with the luscious Carla Gugino topless for most of the movie. And Bruce Greenwood as her husband, who I love Bruce Greenwood also. And I read Gerald's Game. It's an interesting read. And I haven't seen it yet. I think next week, the kids and my wife are scheduled for a camping trip. And I'm going to do like a Halloween-themed thing. I might check out Gerald's Game that night, one of those nights. And he just did Midnight Mass, which actually looks really, really good also. Which is another hugely popular show for Netflix. Netflix absolutely loves this guy. So they will buy anything that he wants. But Mike Flanagan, which is funny because that was the name of a baseball player for the Orioles, one of my favorites, but it's not the same guy, says his next Netflix show will be based on Edgar Allan Poe's Fall of the House of Usher, which I think is an absolutely phenomenal idea. And I can't wait to see how he is going to go about doing this. Netflix also has a history of releasing interesting Christmas movies around Christmas time, obviously. The first one that they're showing any previews for right now is a movie called A Boy Called Christmas, which basically is the origin of Santa Claus, but in live action version. It's not going to compare to Klaus, which was an absolutely phenomenal cartoon from 2 years ago that Netflix released and still available. If you haven't seen it yet, it is absolutely phenomenal. It is slowly becoming my favorite Christmas movie of all time, even surpassing A Christmas Story, which I adore. But Klaus is one of those films that I really, really, absolutely, truly love. Um, the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, that special that's hugely famous also. A lot of controversy came out a few years ago when they were not going to be airing it anymore on NBC, ABC, or CBS. CBS, I think, had the rights for whatever reason. I forget the reasoning for it. And then they didn't air it last year, I think, due to COVID and other stuff as well. Well, don't worry no longer. If you've been anticipating the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, guess what? October 24th, which is what, today's the 16th. That would be Sunday, next Sunday. Yes, next Sunday on PBS, of all places, will be airing The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. So, good on that. Oh, yeah. Emma Stone sets up a TV series on HBO Max called Flicker in the Wind or something like that. Don't know what that's going to be about, but she's going to be involved in that. So that's pretty good. Howard University has launched a $5.4 million Chadwick Boseman scholarship, which is outstanding. So you'll be able to get the Chadwick Boseman scholarship to go to Howard University, which is, yes, it is an all-black university, but that's okay. Any chance to get more educated, more people educated is outstanding. I guess I talked about this last week, so I'm just going to delete this off then. I was going to talk about it this week, but apparently it came out last week. So The Real World was a documentary series back when MTV was still airing videos most of the time, but they decided to dip their toe into TV series and documentaries and stuff like that. And The Real World was their first take at a docu-series. Now, this was in the early 90s, or maybe even late 80s, early 90s, but they were one of the first people to do a documentary series about normal people. To be honest, though, the show itself was not normal because the whole premise itself is that you have a gorgeous house filled with all kinds of amenities, and you put in a group of disparate people of all ages, sexes, religions, colors, religious beliefs, ethnicities, and then watch as the fireworks and then videotape their lives 24/7. Again, before Survivor, before Big Brother, before all this stuff, The Real World was the one that was the great grandfather of all this reality TV bullshit. And you can hate the fact that they're the ones that brought about, reality series stuff, but it was still, for the first few seasons, was a fairly fun. Actually, the first 3 seasons, the fourth season was a complete bore, and then I lost interest after that. Even the one that was filmed in Baltimore, which I wish I would have seen, but now I just no desire to really see it because it's the same old bullshit. But we'll get to that in a second. But it had all these, they were all young people. They were like between the ages of 18 and like 25. So there was no old people, and there was no really, really young people. So you had this 18 to 25 window, which was obviously the people who were watching MTV the most at that time. And they put them in a house. This time, the first Real World was done in New York, and watched the fireworks go. And there were plenty. There was a dumb Southern chick who, on her first visit, it was like maybe the first time she ever seen a black person or whatever. There was a black woman who was a rap singer who had a beeper. Yeah, beepers, not cell phone, a beeper. And the beeper went off, and this stupid Southern chick was like, "Do you sell drugs?" And that started the whole thing off because it was a racist statement to make because she was a fucking Southern bitch and didn't know the fact that beepers were used more for other things, and the fact that asking a black person they sold drugs is obviously a racist motivated thing. Yes, most drug dealers are black, but not every black person deals drugs, you dumbass bitch. And then there was the angry black man who believed that, everyone was against him and stuff like that, which he had some fair stuff to say. There was the gay guy in there as well. And there was some others. They had a little bit of everything in there. And it was, it did not disappoint. There were huge clashes. And in the end, it was like, oh, I learned something new, blah, blah, blah. And it was so well received that they decided they were going to continue it. So They did Real World LA. They did Real World San Francisco. Then they did Real World London, and then I think they did Real World like Miami or something like that. But they've done pretty much every major city you can think of, and they've even gone back a few times. They've done Boston. They've gone back. They've done New York again. They did L.A. again. They could go to Seattle was another one that I think I kind of remember also. Actually, Seattle. Yeah, Seattle was a different one. I think I watched that one too. San Francisco. Seattle. I'm trying to remember which one had Puck and Judd Winnick. I think that was Seattle. I honestly don't remember. But so, they had other ones in Florida, New Orleans. There was like a New Orleans one. There was one in Texas and Baltimore. There was one in D.C. Detroit. They had them all over the place. St. Louis. They probably all the big cities had them, and they would go back. I think they might have had one in Charlotte also, and I think they did one in Paris as well. But it was the same format. Gorgeous people between 18 and 25 years old, different belief systems, but would cause all kinds of stuff. Now, the Real World New York had a reunion special on Peacock, I believe, earlier this year, and it did so well that they decided to do a series for the next one. So there's now a Real World LA homecoming reunion series. So not everyone involved in Real World LA is going to be back for this, but you're going to have, them, 20 plus years later, where are they now? And it's a regular show. They're all living back together again, which I think in honesty is actually a pretty good idea to see how people have changed. But I'm just so burnt out by reality series, and because a dumbass reality person was one that is practically destroying our country right now, it's hard to see what'll happen. So it's an intriguing idea, but I probably won't watch it. It's on the Peacock, I believe, which is another one I don't need to get. I mean, the Peacock and HBO Max are keep screaming at me, you need to pick me up. And Apple Plus is like, you need to get me too, because there's lots of good stuff on all of them, but you can't afford all that shit. I'm telling you, you just can't. So what is that? Ravens can't something again. I don't know what this fucking word is right here. It's like countering, congratulations, containing. I don't know. It doesn't matter anyway. Michael Keaton, who actually is it's slowly become one of my absolute favorite actors. I've always loved everything he's done, and I think he's a great guy. He said, he was asked to reprise his role as Bruce Wayne Batman in the Flash movie, which we'll have more about that on tonight's episode. DC Fandom was this week. Got to see some trailers for the Flash. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, he said that when he went in to do the show, to do his role in the movie, it's not a cameo. There's a lot more to it than that. His Batman suit still fit him after 30 plus years. So that's pretty cool, because I love Michael Keaton. Love me some Michael Keaton. Don't know why, but I do. He's a good guy. Yeah, I guess because it was Hulu. The first gay Christmas movie from Netflix. That's another one of the Christmas movies that I just talked about. I mean, Boy Named Christmas, and then this one called Single All the Way will be coming out on Netflix. Hulu last year had the lesbian one with Kristen Stewart and Eugene Levy's son. But this one is about two guys, and that could be an interesting way of doing stuff as well. This is great. American Born Chinese, which is an outstanding book from 1 Second Publishing, which was actually, I think, one of my accounts when I worked at Diamond, and they came out in early 2000. It's an outstanding book. I love it, and I'm going to probably reread it in a little bit, but this news is absolutely wonderful. It's going to be adapted into a show on Disney Plus from the director of Shang-Chi, who also happens to be Chinese as well. So they've got the best creative team on it, and it's a great story. And I don't know if it's going to be animated or live action. They didn't really go into detail about that. I actually wouldn't mind seeing an animated version, but if you're going to do live action, do live action. I really don't care. Just do it right. And they will. Last week's, I should say 2 weeks ago's episode, since I didn't do one last week. 2 weeks ago's episode was called Fat Bear Week, and I was telling you about the contest up in uh, Keaton, state park or whatever it's called up in Alaska, where they were taking pictures of a number of their bears in their national park, what they look like during the summer and what they look like now, because obviously the bears are putting on weight because they're getting ready to go underground now for like 6 months, 6 months, but let's just say they're going in November. So November, December, January, February, March, about 4 months, 4 to 5 months. So they got to build up their fat so that when they're sleeping, they can still survive on their fat and live. So that's why, you know, when they come out in springtime, they're all scrawny. So they were having it's something, I guess, that's been happening a while, but it became a huge deal this year for whatever reason. But it was a sort of a bracket like they do have in the NCAA, where they had, like, 24 of these bears competing against each other, and then people voted on it till you got to the final two, and then the winner is Otis, who gained 480 pounds. So good on you, Otis. Congratulations, and enjoy your prize of sleeping for 4 months, which sounds wonderful. Uh, um, House of Blank. Never got what? The House of Dragons trailer, which is the prequel to Game of Thrones, had their first trailer come out. I didn't watch that one either because honestly, it doesn't interest me. It might interest, again, Doctor Who. I mentioned it earlier in the show. Matt Smith, who played 12, 11, played 11. Excuse me, played 11. Is the star of this one as well. So we'll see what happens. Whenever you hear of the burger joint Wendy's, one of the first things you think about them is, well, they're square burgers, but you also think of their Frosties, which is their really thick milkshakes, and they're hugely popular. Well, you can now get Wendy's Frosty in a cereal form from Kellogg's that has marshmallows in it. So yeah, of course it would, because why not add marshmallows? um, Divers discover the world's largest underwater cave system filled with Mayan relics. So that's pretty cool. Be able to see a bunch of new historic stuff. Um, I got two famous people retiring. One last week, the 3rd through the 9th, and one this week coming up, which I'll tell you about this week. But the one from last week, David Lee Roth, one-time lead singer of Van Halen, went off to his own solo career, eventually got back with Van Halen. Is retiring in January. So you will not hear any more from David Lee Roth. So not that you've heard very much from him anyway. So we'll see what happens. Word came out this week, October 3rd through the 9th, that they believe that they have discovered who the Zodiac Killer is. They had a new suspect in, and a Reddit person took a look at some information and did some stuff. And the one thing that his main proof about is that if you use the letters in this person's name, you can unlock one of the messages that the Zodiac Killer did. So they believe that this is the guy who it was. I forget what his name is. To be honestly, there have been so many people say this guy is officially the Zodiac Killer, and then don't talk about it anymore. And then they say, no, this person is. They've been talking about this for years. I don't know. We're ever going to figure out who it is. Plus, they may have added, if this guy is indeed the Zodiac Killer, there was a woman who was killed far away from the killing zone of San Francisco, way down south, that could be connected to this new killer, because the new killer happened to be in the area at the time of this murder, because there's proof of that, because he had just got a ticket or was just in jail or something before, and then got released around the same time that this person was killed. So I'm not putting much stake into it. So we'll see. A new open world video game, which is a horror related, features an evil spider train. So for people who hate spiders, this is just another outstanding game. NASA reestablishes contact with Voyager 2. It had lost contact with Voyager 2, which is it's out in interstellar space right now, along with Voyager 1, and they lost contact with it for a while, but now they have gotten it back. So, hooray. Three black holes were spotted colliding, and it was so bad that it made space-time jiggle, which I didn't feel, but I guess it happened because scientists said it did. I'll believe that. And finally, those things I just talked about are real space things. This one is well, maybe, maybe not thing, and it's just an interesting thing. Pluto, which I still feel is a planet, still call it my planet, still think it's the ninth planet. This was from one of my supernatural websites, so take it with a grain of salt, whatever. But there has been, these are the same people that go through these photos of Mars and discover strange creatures and stuff on them that shows that NASA's covering up life on Mars. But instead of it being on Mars, someone discovered a weird object on Pluto. And the area that it's in is completely white due to the ice and snow and whatever. And it's like a downslope of one of the mountains. And you can see a little grooved area where the grooves are, whatever. And there's this black object just sort of sitting right there, which if it was just a rock, is just kind of odd that it's the only black rock within the framework of the picture, which is basically thousands of miles, because it was taken from outer space. So people believe that this very well could be a creature living on Pluto sliding down the hill. And that in itself is just an intriguing idea, because I've always stated that aliens, people are always looking for life on other planets, whatever. They're looking for life like us. I said that's not necessarily what you should be looking for, because other life could easily adapt to their conditions. There's no oxygen on the planet, but there's lots of carbon. A creature's created that breathes carbon. Makes perfect sense to me, right? So the fact that they're talking about Pluto possibly having weird creatures on it is a lot more fun and interesting to think about than Mars, because everyone has been talking about Mars for years and years, that there's life on there. And there's some intriguing photos, particularly the spider in the cave one, which is really weird. If it's a rock formation, it is a really bizarre rock formation. I mean, something I've never seen before ever. It looks like a fucking crab spider thing. And it's insane how much that looks like that. Or the little womp rat thing that they discovered also. It's a different shade of color from all the other rocks in the area, and it just seems odd that one rock of that color would be in an area with that, and it wasn't the same color as all the other rocks in the area. Same thing with this thing also. There's no other rocks in the area. There's no rocks anywhere on this little tubule thing except for this one little black spot, which people believe is some sort of bear type of creature thing. So I think it's kind of cool. Going from the recesses of recesses of outer space to back here on Earth. It's again Halloween season. I was going to decorate some Halloween stuff, but I never have gotten around to doing my outdoor stuff yet. But there are people who are now claiming that a new Halloween inflatable that shows two skeletons embracing is vulgar, and that it should be removed because it looks like the skeletons are fucking each other while they're hugging. I don't know. I really don't know. A new Resident Evil trailer has come out. Welcome to Raccoon City trailer. Again, not something that I'm interested in, something I didn't really watch, didn't pay much attention to. I really don't care. But for fans of Resident Evil, you might be able to get that and get into that. Hulu's Hellraiser reboot casts a female Pinhead, which again is fine because female Pinheads have existed in the Hellraiser universe. It just wasn't the main character. Now it's going to be the main character. To cast Netflix's Sense8 star as the female Pinhead. So I think that's an intriguing idea. Catherine Hahn had a stellar performance as Agatha Harkness in WandaVision. And everybody loved it so much that Agatha is getting her own Disney Plus series. Now, we mentioned that Disney Plus says that they've got at least 30 plus series and movies constantly in the works and production. Well, this happens to be one of the ones that they've been working on and will be out sooner than later. So I guess you can look at it as sort of a sequel to WandaVision, though I doubt Elizabeth Olsen or Paul Bettany will be in it, but who knows? We'll see what happens. Plus, rumors are starting to come out more and more that Catherine Hahn will also make an appearance in Doctor Strange 2 along with Elizabeth Olsen. So we will see what happens with that. A raven, the bird raven, there's video of a bird raven attacking a coffee delivering drone. Now, I've never seen any, I heard that Amazon had drones that could deliver packages like right away. I heard that there are restaurants that are using drones to deliver food and coffee and stuff like that, but I've never actually seen one. I've never gone outside and heard a buzzing or looked up and seen a weird thing flying overhead, whatever. And honestly, I couldn't tell you how it gets done, so who knows. But there's video of a raven attacking a coffee drone, which I think is kind of funny. Speaking of Netflix did a horror reboot of Sabrina, the Teenage Witch. And it was similar along the lines to the CW Riverdale series, which became a more grown-up adult version of the Archie comic series. Well, Sabrina has always been a part of the Archie comics world, and now it's going to be part of the Archie cinematic or television universe. Sabrina's series is done on Netflix. The final season aired, I think, last year. But she's not done. The actress who has played Sabrina in that series on Netflix is making her way over to Riverdale in the new season, and she will be appearing on Riverdale, which she should. But it's still kind of intriguing to see a character from a Netflix series cross over to a regular mainstream series on the CW. A couple deaths. Alan Kaltev, the Coulter, late show with David Letterman, announced her dead at the age of 78. And Cynthia Harris, a character actress, also died the week of that's October 3rd through the 9th. I think that's all the ones I hit with the letter D. I'm just going to skip that one because I couldn't tell you what that one says. Urban Meyer, who was the Ohio State coach and was a successful Ohio State coach, decided he wanted to chase the big bucks and try his hand at the NFL again, thinking that he could do NFL stuff as good as anybody can, I guess. And so he joined the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is a crap team anyway. And he's doing what we expect him to do. He's trying to bring a college sensibility to the NFL game, and it's not working. It didn't work the last time he tried to run an NFL team. He is a college coach, and he's a really good college coach, and he should go back to college. Now, I think he was done with Ohio State, so we think this might have been a way for him to get out of Ohio State and then maybe, hang around for a little while, and then if another college opens up, maybe he can go then. Well, that happened sooner than later when USC announced that they were releasing their coach. Now, USC hasn't been a mainstay in the college football world in a long time, but it used to be a huge college football school, and it seems like the best spot for an Urban Meyer to go back to. And he's under fire. Just his player personnel, his attitude, the way he does the game, he's again trying to do a college version of the NFL, and it's not working, and he's not adjusting anything. So his team is 0-5. They play in London tomorrow against the Dolphins, so their game starts at 9:30 a.m. here on Sunday. So they're terrible right now. Well, he just got even worse trouble when he was videotaped after their latest loss last week at a bar where there was a young woman grinding on him. That was not his wife. Now, it was a big story the week of the 3rd through the 9th. But something coming out this week, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, later, is eclipsing that now. But right now, this is a major story. So a lot of people believing that, Urban Meyer is going to use this to try to get fired as the head coach of Jacksonville so he can take the USC job. So we'll see. just a little bit more left to go in this week's work of stuff, and then I'll take a little break, and then hopefully later tonight I'll be able to do the new show because I got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about that. A giant extinct burrowing bat has been discovered in New Zealand. So there was a burrowing bat discovered in New Zealand, and it must have lived a while ago. Continuing our Netflix stuff, Sex Education, which just had their 3rd season release, has been renewed for a 4th season, so good on that for Netflix. Remember how the northern southern hemispheres, they switch up their the seasons. Like right now, we are in fall, they're in spring. When it's our winter, it's their summer. When it's our summer, it's their winter. So Antarctica, which is in the southern hemisphere, just got out of their brutal winter, and it is the coldest winter on record. Negative 110.9 degrees Fahrenheit, which is outstandingly cold. So that might be a good sign that the climate change is changing stuff up, but we need to take care of that. But the fact is that Antarctica had its coldest season in the longest time, and that could be a sign of things to come for this upcoming winter. Along with, as I said a couple weeks ago, Greenland got a nice batch of snow on their snowpack, which helped things do stuff. So, Moon Knight has finished filming, so we're going to start seeing more information about that. And that means that it's also on target to come out next year, 2023. At this point, I would probably say maybe summer, though Moon Knight probably be a better one to come out in the fall, but we will see. FX has a Shogun update coming, and they released some of the cast, but it's a completely Japanese cast, which is great. So that's going to be coming really soon. I didn't know that was actually a thing, but it is. So good on that. The new Prime Minister of Japan says he will boost the income of people who work in manga and anime, because manga and anime is considered a high form of literature and cinema over there, and is treated with respect, unlike comic books, where here in the United States we don't even have enough paper to print comic books right now. So things are causing lots of delays when it comes to comic books and stuff like that. And that was a story I forgot to tell you about before. That's why I segued into that. But that's good on Japan, and it's good on that. So I'm glad about that. Getting back to some space stuff. One planet was found orbiting 3 stars at once. I can't even imagine what that would be like or how it would be. Absolutely crazy. Interview with a Vampire is the TV show. I forget where it's going to be. I think it's on Amazon. It's set to start filming in December. So that'll be good to see how they're going to do that. 2,500-year-old skeleton was found face down with its hands bared. So obviously he was executed from the back in typical execution style. A woman found a 4.38 carat diamond at the Arkansas crater of Diamond, which is, I guess, is a place that is filled with diamonds. And basically you go there, if you find any diamonds, you get to keep them. But she found a 4.38 carat diamond, which is outstanding. Captain Kirk, William Shatner, went into outer space with Jeff Bezos. Actually, they announced that last week, and he actually went this week, so I'll mention that now. A hunter finds a lost GoPro camera that was filled with footage shot by a bear. So a bear was playing with it, and there's lots of shots of the bear trying to figure out what to do with it. I talked about Oreo's new flavor and Pepsi's flavors and Mountain Dew's flavors. Well, Oreo's also has one. They have a fizzy orange flavored Oreo coming. They've already done sort of the fizzy thing, but they're going to do an orange cream, I guess, and fizzy flavored stuff. So that would be thinking about that. Guardians of the Galaxies Halloween holiday special, which will start filming in December, will introduce a whole bunch of new Marvel characters. So that'll be good. One of whom may very well be Adam Warlock, but that's a tease for this week's episode coming up. Because I knew Adam Warlock has been cast, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Actually, I hope I remember that. Let me just put this out here. Adam Warlock cast. I know I did. No, I know I wrote it down, so we'll worry about that later. If I don't, oh well. A Russian filmmaker flew up into the space station that's currently the ISS, and our space station currently orbiting the Earth. A director and a actress have gone up to film actual scenes for a movie on the ISS. Now, there have been rumors that Tom Cruise was going to be doing that soon. He just hasn't done it yet, but the Russians beat us to that as well. So that should be interesting. I think my friend Gary gave me the story, and he said I think they're coming back this weekend. So they only filmed for a couple of weeks, and they're coming back. What is that? I don't know what that says. Okay. I don't know what that says either. So we'll just end today's episode with Oh, that's what. Okay, that's what it is. MIT researchers have created a clothing or skin or something that you can put memories and digital information on, so you can keep track of your life, I guess, all through this sleeve. I think it's sleeve, actually. I can't read my damn writing because that's terrible. But they have created something which will be able to put your memories and other digital stuff involved with that as well. I don't know. I think it's a Halloween thing. It's a controversial party found Halloween in a party by Vermeer unparalleled on. Something like that. I don't know what that says. So yeah, I think I'll just end today's episode with a spooky story. A woman had a video, had cameras in her house, and just to make sure that if anyone breaks in, they can get, views of it or whatever. But on the 1 year anniversary of her pet cat's death, there's a shot of the living room from the camera, and there's a sofa, and the woman is coming back from going shopping or something like that, and she's talking to her other cat, and so she's in the kitchen or whatever, which you can see there. On the sofa, for a split second, a cat appears and then disappears again. And when the woman saw that, she swore that it was her pet cat who died a year earlier. It was a black cat. That was its favorite spot, and it reappeared very briefly and then disappeared just as quickly. So it's kind of neat to see if that happened. I've told you stories before about the ghost cat that I believe is living in our house here. I haven't seen any sign of ghost cat in a while, but I still believe that something like that could happen. But the fact is, this was actually on a videotape, and I watched the videotape. It's actually really intriguing, because if it was like blankets all different or a pillow or whatever, it looks very cat-like, and it's only there for a split second and it's back to normal. So it's like you only see it real quick and then back, and there's no way that a blanket could fold over into the form of a cat and then reappear again as being normal. So I have no idea what that says, so I'm not even going to try. All right. So on that note, I think I'm done the episode for the week of this October 3rd through the 9th. Hopefully later tonight, again, probably closer to 11 o'clock, maybe even 12 o'clock. We'll see. I'm going to try definitely to do a show tonight because I don't want to do anything tomorrow because the Ravens game tomorrow is going to be insane. And it's going to be nice and cold and 63 degrees. So we'll see what happens. But we'll talk all about that on my next show. So hopefully I will get that done tonight later on. So I've already eaten my dinner. It's almost 8 o'clock here, so that's good. So I will depart now, and hopefully you'll see me again in about 3 hours, and we'll do this whole damn thing over again, but with more up-to-date stuff, including stuff from DC Fandom, some news about Hawkeye, Secret Invasion, Brian K. Vaughan, the first week of comic book delivery from other people, Andy Murray, something happened to him, Hocus Pocus, Aurora Borealis, Hasbro, all kinds of crazy stuff. So time to go. Bye.